Everybody, I'd like to call the Grosse Ile Township Zoning Board of Appeals meeting dated September 23rd, 25, back into session. Can I have a motion to resume the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye as well, unanimously approved. I'd like to ask everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on the agenda after the Pledge of Allegiance is are there any additions or deletions to the agenda for this evening? Anyone?
No.
Hearing none, the agenda will stay as stated. At this point, we open the floor for 3 minutes for any public comment. Somebody may have to leave. Somebody may want to say something to the Board of Zoning. Somebody may want to bring up whether the Tigers are going to win tonight. I don't care. We have 3 minutes for public comment if anybody has anything to say in the public area here. No, this is just a public commenting, Dr. Lutsic. Your appeal, anybody else for public comment?
I would like to address that specific appeal. I don't know if now.
Okay, that appeal is number 3 on our agenda this evening. If we could ask that you do that. This is for other matters, not addressing those, if somebody had to leave for an urgent reason or something. All right, hearing no public comment. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the August 5th, 2025 Zoning Board. Everybody got those minutes? Is there any deletions or corrections that may need to be made to them? Anybody?
Oh, not from this side.
Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the August 25th, 2025 meeting minutes?
Motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well. The meeting minutes from August 25th have been approved. The first appeal on our agenda tonight is appeal number 25-004. Mr. Frank Concessi of 26457 West River Road, Grosse Ile, Michigan, 48138. And he has applied for a variance from the standards of section 285, -3.5B. Mr. Borden, would you please give us your presentation first, and Mr. Concessi, after Mr. Borden is done, we would ask that you come up and present your appeal, okay?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, honorable board members. Our first case this evening is for the property at 26457 West River Road. It is the property right here, if you can see my cursor. Southeast corner, West River Road and Hawthorne Glen Drive. The site is zoned R1A, single-family residential. A little bit of quick background. All of this is in my full review letter, but I'm going to try to hit the high notes for you for the presentation. So your petitioner tonight purchased this property approximately 2019, and on the waterfront side, so in this case the west side of West River Road, had a covered but unenclosed structure present in their waterfront yard. More recently, i.e. earlier this summer or spring, I believe, some work was done to the surfacing below the structure, and ultimately the structure was removed to complete that work. And then the structure, which I should take a backtrack to, so it was essentially a non-conforming structure at that point. Such structures are not allowed under the ordinance. Once it was removed, petitioner did not have rights to put it back up. They did so anyway, and that's when Community Development Department enforcement staff did issue them a violation, and then the subsequent response was to file the application to ZBA to see if they could obtain a variance to keep said structure. So if any of you have driven past it recently, you've seen it. It's there. It's pretty. It's you can't miss it. So, the pertinent ordinance provisions for you this evening are actually, there's a handful of them, two of which kind of say the same thing, but section 3.5, section 17.4, section 18.6, and lastly 23.5B, which are your review considerations. So this slide is a view of the waterfront portion of the property, and then this is, the outline is the patio, and this guy circled in red here is really the subject of our conversation this evening. It is approximately a 15 by 11 covered but unenclosed structure. I do have some photos. Thank you, Mr. Schweikert. So as you can see here, this is the structure we're referencing, and then the middle picture is really the best view of said structure. So you get a feel for what it looks like had you not had a chance to drive by or do a site visit. So I alluded to some of the ordinance provisions a little more specifically now. So section 3.5B is the footnotes to the area and bulk standards for the single family zone districts. It specifically does not permit buildings or structures that are not otherwise allowed by Article 17, which are your waterfront provisions, on the lands essentially on the west side of West River. The same applies to the east side of East River. So the smaller waterfront lots that are across the street from the primary residences. So 3.5B essentially prohibits that on both East River and West River. This site falls right within that provision on West River. And then 17.4 does identify the specific waterfront structures that are allowed in the township, and an accessory structure of this sort is not listed. It's not one of them. It is not an allowable structure. So the applicant is before you tonight for a single variance, and that is to allow the presence of this structure. As I've noted, it's covered but unenclosed in the waterfront yard, where both sections 3.5 and 17.4 would otherwise prohibit it. So those are the standards before you. A brief overview of the full review standards. As you're all aware, your ordinance 23.5B does have 14 specific review standards. As I've been doing within probably the past couple of years, I've sort of broken that down into the primary considerations and the secondary considerations. So legally, the primary considerations that you need to apply, that need to be demonstrated, are those of practical difficulty, substantial justice, and extraordinary circumstance, and that said circumstance is not self-created. So those are what I've been referring to as the primary test. Those have to be met for you to grant a variance. The secondary considerations are tied to neighborhood character, public safety, impacts on traffic, impacts on surrounding properties. Again, there's 11 other standards, but they're all somewhat similar in that vein. So I want to make sure I've reiterated that appropriately. So 1, 2, and 3 on your screen are really the essential items that you would need to find are demonstrated to grant the variance. So in this case, with respect to practical difficulty, strict compliance with the ordinance will not prevent the petitioner continued use of their property. It will not prevent their continued use of their waterfront yard. It would simply require that shade structure would have to be removed. In this particular case, I did not feel that the submittal materials that were presented to you really did a great job of identifying what the practical difficulty is or why that conformity would be burdensome. The main focus was that of the structure was there when petitioner purchased the property, and then unfortunately it was removed during the repairs, and I'm under the impression the petitioner did not know that there were limitations on putting a non-conforming structure back up. So again, I think I've even said in my letter, it's a bit of an unfortunate situation, but I'm not sure that there's a true practical difficulty here. That being said, I definitely want to offer the petitioner the opportunity to present to you and explain to you why he may feel that this standard is met. So we will give him that opportunity when I'm done. Similarly, under the substantial justice test, because the structure is just it's not permitted at all, there are somewhat limited alternatives. Normally I can present to you a couple of different ideas that would be guided by the ordinance. There really aren't a lot of things to kind of hang my hat on with this one. I did put forth the the potential that if the desire is a little bit of shade in the summer months, that potentially petitioner could utilize some umbrellas instead of this structure, potentially even maybe a temporary retractable tent. I'm not 100% that meets ordinance either, but I'm kind of spitballing as to, maybe what some options might be. I do want to also point out, and petitioner can explain this to you better, but if you've driven by recently, there is actually such a tent underneath the shade structure currently. So I'm not suggesting it's the most aesthetic alternative, but if the end goal is simply for some shade and some shelter, it is a potential option. That being said, petitioner's submittal materials really didn't get into any options, didn't get into how granting of a variance might or might not be fair to himself as well as some of the neighbors. So similar to my closing point on practical difficulty, I definitely want to provide the petitioner the opportunity to come up here and present to you why they feel that either the alternatives are not reasonable or are not feasible, and how granting of the variance would be fair to other property owners in the district. So I will ask the petitioner to try to better address those in terms of the submittal materials that we had. Extraordinary circumstances, again, the submittal materials really don't identify a specific exceptional circumstance or extraordinary condition of the property. That's the key point here. Similar to the first two, if the petitioner does feel there is something unique, exceptional about this property that helps support the need for a variance, I do want and encourage them to come up here and present those ideas to you for your consideration. Closing point, I mentioned all the secondary considerations up front. I really don't believe, and you can dive into the detail in my review letter, but based on the nature of the project and the property itself, I don't foresee that the granting of the variance would have any issues with public safety, land values, neighborhood character. I don't believe it will disrupt or block light and air. I don't believe it will have any impact on traffic flow. I don't believe it will cause any of the nuisance-like conditions identified in your ordinance, nor do I believe it will really have any significant impact on any of the adjacent properties. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to take any questions, or when you're done with me, petitioner is in the audience as well, and I'd be happy to call him up when you're done with me.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Borden?
Not for me.
Go ahead, Mr. Kennedy. I'm sorry.
Yes, Brian, I'm just curious, I didn't see in the waterfront structure approval section anything that would allow anything such as some of the, there were two storage structures further up West River that were, the size of lockers and stuff like that, and even dock boxes. So what's the line on what's allowed and what's not? And can you address that? Because
I don't believe I can address that tonight.
I'm just curious as to the ordinance section basically states mooring whips and hoists and stuff of that nature.
Docks
It doesn't
and
even,
wharfs and piers, et cetera.
yeah,
Yes.
it doesn't address anything that you see on all the docks up and down the river. And I was just curious as to is there any guidance there, because some of the storage structures are pretty large. Others are simply dock boxes.
I
and
do
that.
not, other than the strict view of the ordinance, essentially, I guess I would view those as not being permitted under the ordinance, but I don't have any of the specific information as
understand.
to
I'm
how
not-
those got there
I'm just-
or really what they are. I mean, if they are essential and accessory to the keeping of a boat and they're part of the dock structure, perhaps the township's viewpoint has been that that's what they are. I would say the storage containers of some sort or storage buildings, that's probably pushing into territory where my initial reaction is that probably would not be allowed by the ordinance. But it's really hard to explain because I don't know the specifics of those. But yes, obviously the township's aware that there are other such structures out there. The best one that I can address for the board's consideration would be any of the covered boat wells or even the older boat houses that you see. So those were permitted once upon a time. I think it was actually even before I started with the township. So we're talking a very long time ago. And those were permitted, and then they were written out of the ordinance. So any of those types of structures, for the most part, I would believe that those are probably legal non-conforming structures, because they were allowed for a very long time until they were not,
Thank you.
of course.
Do you know when that changed or no?
It was probably the mid to late 90s.
It was the early 90s. I was there.
Institutional knowledge, folks.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Borden?
Mr. Chairman, just one question. I'm making the assumption, did we look in our records and there was no record that this was ever up and got a prior approval from ZBA?
That is not from what I saw, no.
So it absolutely is non-conforming whenever it was put up.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Swikart. Any other questions from anybody on the board?
I have one.
Sorry. This installation is very close to the road, all of it. And I don't know, does the easement run on the east side of the road? So it's not encroaching anywhere, correct?
I don't know that for a fact.
Okay.
I guess that's something that had not yet been considered. There are, if you look at the drawing here, this I believe is an overhead line. So the easement the right-of-way probably covers that. It may or may not, to be quite honest. So, yeah, the drawing did not depict that on there. It's not anything that was ever even brought up as a discussion point.
Okay, so because I worry about traffic hazard.
It's certainly, it's far enough off the roadway. I don't foresee any issues.
structure is,
but
yes.
I guess if it's in the right of way, that's a whole different argument here, and they should have been before Wayne County and not Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay, thanks.
Or both, perhaps, if it's part in their yard and part in the right of way. So, I would suggest that is certainly something that, between staff and myself, we can look into that. I guess depending on your decision this evening, if you were to grant it, we could most certainly, you could have a condition that it cannot be in the right of way, or that it requires Wayne County approval if it is in the right of way, and we can dig deeper into that and get a definitive answer.
Hey, I'm sorry, can I ask a question? Actually, it's for Mr. Schweikert. You were here when that ordinance took effect, right? No more waterfront structure.
Yes.
Can you, I guess, expound upon that a little bit? Why was that put into place? Was there a specific reason that we didn't want any more? Was it just for view, or was there a specific safety reason? Things like that nature?
I do not recall that there was any safety reason. It was a matter of obstruction of the view of the waterway from the roads is what it was.
Okay.
And it started off with banning the sidewalls. That was the first consideration. Then the second consideration was the roof. And so everything went out.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from anybody on the board? No. Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Borden. Appreciate your presentation as always. Mr. Concessi, obviously the floor is yours. We'd like for you to identify yourself, provide us with your address, and then proceed with your presentation, please.
Okay. My name is Frank Concessi, 26457 West River, and we're just looking to get our structure put back where it was. That's all. That's
All right, you've seen Mr. Borden's presentation.
Yes.
We have, as the board, have to follow these requirements in order to address your appeal. And the three requirements that must be met were outlined, and if you can put that, is there a way we can put that back up on the screen for him to see? Those three requirements are practical difficulties is number one, substantial justice is number two, and then extraordinary circumstances are number three. And Mr. Borden alluded to that the materials, we realize you want the awning back that was
Yes.
there when you bought the house.
Yes.
But since it was taken down, it needs the variance. So that's what we need you to address, are those three factors, if you could. Address them individually at a time. I think they're in front of you. You can see what the wording is. Can you give us your reasons why this would be, it creates a practical difficulty in the other two factors.
Well, number one, practical difficulty, as far as pretty much it's just for shelter, sun and stuff like that. There is no issues as far as the structure. The originally thing started out was we were repairing the deck that was there. And it was crumbling and moving it, falling into the river. So at that point, we thought we could just literally pick it up, move it. We put it across the street temporarily, re-poured the concrete, put footings in there. And what started out to be little footings, like 6 inches or whatever is required, they started digging into it. And as they started to trench, they started running into slabs of concrete and everything else. So they were able to fill back then with everything and anything. So it created a bigger problem than what originally was a thing. Had I known that back then, I would have left the structure right there and sheared it and, left it as is. But as far as the structure itself, ordinance. We bought the house, like you said, in 6 years ago. I'm assuming that the structure was there at least 15 or 20 years prior to us, getting it. But I couldn't confirm nor deny. But it definitely was there prior to us owning it. And that's about it that I know of in that there. I mean, it's not an eyesore. I've got letters from one of the citizens or the neighbors that thought it was, an enhancement to the property itself. I do have a lot of people that frequent the place that live down the street and just stop and look at the water and the view and stuff like that. But it wasn't done deliberately or as far as anything else goes.
So, did you and your family, before addressing the patio conditions, did you use the prior or the initial, the awning before that?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so your wish is just to continue using it the way you did before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And your estimation on it being there for 15 years is just based on your conversations with the seller, or just the age of the device, or what is it?
Age of the device, the structure, and yes, in talking with them that they've had it for years, and they've owned it for, believe it was like 20 years that they lived there.
All right. It is the structure that you have there now, the one that was there when you bought, or is it a new awning structure because of the condition of the old one?
No, it is the same exact structure, and like I said, we picked it up literally and put it across the street, stored it there temporarily while we did the work.
All right.
Like I said, had we known back then what we know now, we would have literally just left it in the ground and worked around it, fixed everything else. And it wasn't known to us until after we had pulled permit to rebuild the whole thing. And then the ordinance came up and said, well, you can't put it there. It's like, why? It wasn't explained to us that, once you move that, it's there, it's going to, it's not conforming.
Right.
It wasn't until after they issued the citation that we found out that we were, in violation.
Does anybody else have any
Yeah, so
questions from?
I'm sorry,
Go ahead. That's okay, I'm going to just go down the line. So does anyone on the board have any questions for Mr. Concessi or questions? Yes, Mr. Schweikert.
Mr. Chairman, just a fast question. The photograph that was up there before showed the tent inside the structure. Please explain that.
Okay, that was a temporary thing that I had put. I was working on the lights, and it just so happened that it was an awfully sunny, hot day, and to get out of the sun while I was working, I put that in there. And that would not be practical to be putting something like that up with the wind and everything else. It would have to definitely be taken down daily or whenever. Where this one here is structurally, it can take the wind, it can withstand the elements.
Well, you've heard Mr. Borden talk about alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
Would you explain why umbrellas, like most people have table umbrellas and that sort of thing.
Well, if you, on one of these pictures, I believe there is a umbrella that was standing there and it keeps getting knocked over just by the wind, not even being opened. So they're not, the
Well, there are ways to overcome that with,
Huh?
there are ways to overcome that with the anchoring devices that are common.
There is, yes, there is. I'm not saying it's not, an alternative. Yes, it could. Again, these are anchored down to the concrete, that's all.
So it would be possible for you to do that.
Worst case scenario, I guess it would, but it's not what we're looking for, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant?
No, I was just gonna, I'm sorry, did you have anything?
Okay.
So what triggered this event was you actually went down and applied for the permit to redo the stuff on the waterfront, redo your structures on the waterfront, right? Your patio, so forth. That's
I'm
what
sorry.
triggered this?
Pardon me?
I'm just wondering, because I've, unfortunately, I'm gonna struggle a little bit with this, because I drive up and down West River all the time. I see all the structures out there. So this didn't come in through a formal complaint? This was through the permit process that this came up?
So if I may, we noticed that work was being conducted without a permit. We then instructed the homeowner to receive permits. Once he applied, we issued a permit on 10/26/23, and in the code correction list, all work must remain above the ordinary high water mark. Patio only, no accessory structure allowed, in parentheses, pavilion, pre-pour and final inspection required. So initially, we noticed that work was being done without a permit. We said, hey, come get your permit. Once the permit was issued, we put that on the correction list. So that was in 2023.
Okay, so all that information was available prior to that structure going back onto the finished patio?
Correct.
I'm all set, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Mr. Kendall?
yes.
Go ahead. No, he's set. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wanting to refer to the permit was issued in 1920 or 2023 that basically addressed that issue. Did the contractor? I mean, it further states that all construction must comply with local zoning ordinances. I'm just curious. Did that not alert you at that point in time to address this issue?
Unfortunately, we did not. It wasn't addressed at that point when we went to pull the permit. They didn't say that this wouldn't be conforming or anything like that. Again,
So that
that's
was
why
all
we
done by a contractor?
Pardon me?
The permitting, was that done through a contractor?
I believe so. I think I came down and got it. Or no, excuse me, the contractor came down and got it.
Yeah, that was by a contractor.
Yes.
So, I mean, we notified
I couldn't read the name.
the contractor, and then we should have notified the homeowner.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for the applicant? You have anything else you would additionally like to present to us? Anything addressing any of the three factors? Any last words, anything like that, Mr. Concessi?
Other than the structure itself, it's nice. It's in the shade. I have a lot of elderly people that actually walk the streets, come from the complex behind us in Hawthorne and that there to walk down, sit down and enjoy the shade and watch the thing there. So it's not something that's be almost like a park structure. And
All right.
and then I do have a letter from one of the neighbors saying that it was not a structure.
I don't have your complete packet with me. Was that letter included in the packet?
No, sir, I just picked it up.
Okay, and if I may, I'd like to accept that letter on your behalf and acknowledge that we have it as part of the file, and I'll read it to the board if I could. It's from John and Stacy Jazdowski, Jazdzeewski. They live at 26403 West River Road. They said, "Dear board members, I'm writing as to the property at 26403 West River, located 2 homes north of he's the property owner at 26403, and he's writing, he lives 2 houses north of Mr. Concessi. As a neighboring resident, I've reviewed the proposed plan, and I have no objections to the variance being requested. I believe the proposed changes are reasonable. will not negatively impact the character of the neighborhood, and are consistent with the scale and nature of the surrounding properties. In fact, I believe the improvements may enhance the overall aesthetics and value of the area. I trust the board that will give this request thoughtful consideration, and I appreciate the applicant's effort to follow the appropriate process. And it's signed by both John Jazuski and Stacy Jazuski, and we'll make that part of the file for the record for you. Okay? Thank you. Anything else?
That's about it right now, I guess.
All right, thank you very, very much. At this time, board, is there any discussion about the applicant's presentation or Mr. Borden's presentation or the issue at hand?
Real quick to Ross, there's no complaints that were filed either, correct, regarding this particular structure?
Not that I'm aware of.
Right, nobody's, okay.
Mr. Chair, you do still have to conduct a public hearing as well.
Okay, I forgot about that. Thank you, Mr. Concessi, appreciate that. And as Mr. Borden reminded me, if there's anybody in the audience that would like to address this appeal or the process or Mr. Concessi's arguments or claim and Mr. Borden's, anybody in the audience? Seeing none?
Mr. Chair, you do need to make a motion to open the public hearing. See if anybody wants to speak.
On that behalf? All right.
Close the public hearing.
Thank you, ma'am. Being reminded of that procedural requirement, can I have a motion to open public hearing to address whether or not somebody wants to say something here?
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I myself as well. All in favor? Thank you, ma'am. And then again, I'm opening the public comment section, hearing for anybody that has anything to say for Mr. Concessi's appeal. Hearing none, thank you very much. Does anybody wish to present a motion on the appeal number 25004 from Mr. Frank Concessi at
Chairman, did we
26457?
close the public hearing?
Yes,
Motion to close the public hearing?
sorry. Once again, thank you for that. Second on the motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well. The public hearing is closed. Now, anybody have a motion on the appeal number 25004, Mr. Frank Concessi at 26457 West River Road?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a motion. I have a question. I'm having a great difficulty understanding about the practical difficulties and extraordinary circumstances on this. I can understand substantial justice, but I can't. I'd like to know what people think about these other two factors.
Will anybody else on the board want to address, or if they have?
Just hold it on the line.
I'm sorry, you want to just go down the line?
Yeah,
Ms.
let's just do
Davies,
that.
do you have any input on those two?
I agree with John and in this regard, because I do think that, you know, the substantial justice and practical difficulties are a big problem with with the whole thing, because this was a non-conforming, made the problem, now the problem's here, and we have to resolve.
Anybody else have any issues?
Anything else up?
I'm done.
I'm sorry.
No, no worries. I thought we were just going down the line. So,
All right.
unfortunately, yeah, I'm having issues with this as well. Not necessarily the structure itself, but the circumstances. I mean, I guess at what point do we follow our own zoning ordinances and either have strict enforcement or maybe change some of the stuff? But at this point, what we have in front of us, I don't believe it meets the requirements it needs to go through, is my personal opinion. And I say that reluctantly because I don't have a problem with it per se. But if we're going to follow our zoning ordinances and otherwise, I don't think this meets the threshold, in my opinion. But I'll let it go down the rest of the line and we'll come to a vote.
All right, I myself have an issue with, I believe practical difficulties may have been met because he and his family used the existing structure, although it was non-conforming. And I also, driving down West River Road, there are several other similar structures that are there. In fact, there's 3 houses to the south of Mr. Concessi that's obstructed by bushes. I don't even know if the township knows it's there, but it's the exact same size, it appears. So I believe, under the circumstances, that practical difficulties could have been met because he had been using it and he wants to continue using it. But the other two, I do have a concern that substantial justice might have been met because there are others that are doing it. And the third factor of particular special, excuse me, my mistake on that one. The third factor was
Extraordinary circumstances?
circumstances. You know, I think it is somewhat extraordinary. He bought the house that way. It was there. And other people have them there. Other people aren't being told to take them down. He pulled the permit, and he now has to seek the variance. So I have a concern with all three issues being met and whether or not it's the proper method to address. Anything, Mr. Kennedy?
Yeah, I look at this situation from the standpoint of very strict compliance with the ordinance versus the fact that Mr. Concessi wasn't aware that if he moved the structure, it couldn't have been put back. It appears that the permit was signed by a contractor and possibly hadn't even informed him of that provision. He just went ahead and completed the work. Just for instance, another area of the island, a storage shed was picked up, moved about 100 feet. A concrete pad was poured beneath it. The shed was put back down on that concrete pad. The house that was being built was given a certificate of occupancy. Nothing was ever said about that. I mean, I'm not saying we have to look at these situations like somebody else was able to do it and therefore somebody else should be allowed. I just feel that that this was a situation that could have been avoided just by, as Mr. Concessi said, I would have just left it where it was and built around it. It's been there. It's certainly not an eyesore like a lot of other structures are on the island. So I kind of feel this is a situation that should be given consideration for approval, in my opinion.
Any comments, Mr. Kyle?
Sure, I'm newer, I'm learning how each of these criteria are applied, but yeah, overall, I mean, I don't think a lot of residents know how non-conforming structures work, and that if you move them, then, you know, you have the issue that Mr. Concessi had. So I feel sympathy towards him for that. Yeah, so I'm just listening and forming my opinion as I do this.
I feel the same for the sympathy that goes out. I do look at the fact that there was a permit issued that said that this was not allowed, so I'm taking that into consideration. And I think there's a serious issue with Mr. Concessi and his contractor. Now, him not being aware of that is something, but I'm trying to make sure that we maintain fair across for everybody and trying to see what's fair. We do have the exact same structure going back to the exact same place is one of my issues.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion on concerns about the elements? Yes,
Mr. Chairman, a
Mr.
question for staff. It's been mentioned about other structures along the waterfront. What is the township position relative to those? Are you authorized to be able to go around and close them down? And if not, why not?
I think, to my understanding, we are. I mean, but we just don't have, that's not our forte. We don't go around looking for nonconformities and enforcing. We just don't have staff to do that. The only reason why this was brought to our attention was because, I mean, the location of the construction happening, we drive that way to work every day and noticed, oh, we don't have a permit on file for that. And then that's just sort of as an organic sort of, you know, it just organically came to our attention, and we addressed it accordingly.
Okay, Brian, I'd like your opinion on that.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on part of that, Mr. Chair and Mr. Schweikert more specifically. So the township can't, if they're legal non-conforming structures, you can't force their removal. A legal non-conforming structure has rights to remain in place, has certain rights to be maintained in place. The issue that arises is when it's moved or removed from the property. And what your ordinance dictates is that if it's moved, it has to thereafter conform with the ordinance provisions. And if it's removed from the site completely, then it's essentially the non-conforming rights have been abandoned at that point. So it would take a significant effort from township staff to go out and identify every potential non-conforming structure in this community. There are a lot of them.
Sure. So the other structures along West River and East River, as they exist today, are legal nonconforming, and they will stay legal nonconforming until such a time as either it is demolished or wants to be rebuilt, and then at which point then the township could then apply the ordinance standard.
Yes, and the real rub, though, is that there's a distinction between a legal nonconforming structure and an illegal nonconforming structure. An illegal nonconforming structure, the township could pursue action to force its removal. In other words, if nonconformity is tied to whether something was once compliant and then typically via ordinance change, it's no longer compliant. Case in point, I'm not going to tie it to these cases. I mentioned earlier, and we talked a little bit earlier about the covered boat wells and boathouses. Those were specifically permitted up to a certain point in time. Once that ordinance changed and they were prohibited, everyone that had one was able to keep them, maintain them accordingly. So anyone that put something up after the fact or after the ordinance change did so without a permit, did so in violation of the ordinance and the procedures. Now, I could talk about this for a long time, and I'm not going to. Okay. The real trick, honestly, is that the difficulty of trying to go out, identify all of these structures, and then do the research to make the determination if they were legal or illegal. And unfortunately, oftentimes, the information available to staff is inconclusive. It's a very difficult task to put upon them. But there are instances, and when they arise and they come before us, be it whether ZBA, be it whether it's a permit, whatever the case might be, it certainly can be addressed in either of those manners.
Okay, so given that this is probably not more than 15 or 20 years old, this would be considered an illegal nonconformance.
It's entirely possible, but we don't have any proof or evidence to dictate that either.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand.
Yeah, and again, I apologize. I'm not trying to evade the questions here. It's the quality of older information is oftentimes somewhat limited. You really just have to rely on the property files, of which there are a lot, and sometimes you get lucky and there's a lot of information and there's actual copies of permits, there's actual copies of ZBA records, whatever the case might be, and you can make that determination quite quickly. Other times it's not so apparent and you need to dig and dig and dig, and you may or may not find evidence one way or the other.
Understood, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns among the board members? Hearing none, does anybody propose a motion on appeal number 25-004?
I would like to make a motion that the appeal be approved. I feel that it meets the practical difficulties test, the substantial justice test, and the extraordinary circumstances test.
Anything further, Mr. Kennedy?
No.
Is there a second on Mr. Kennedy's motion?
I'll support.
You second that motion?
I'll second it, yep.
I'm sorry. That being said, the motion to approve based on meeting practical difficulties, substantial justice, and extraordinary circumstances. Can we have a roll call vote on that, please? Mr. Swikert?
No.
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 Mr. Kennedy, it was your motion. I presume that you would be a yes.
Aye.
Mr. DeBossette?
Aye.
No.
And I would vote yes. So that makes it, I'm sorry,
Three ayes, 4 noes.
all right? That being said, unfortunately, that's not a majority. The motion does not pass. Anybody else have any further comments or proposed motions regarding appeal number 25004? Being said, Mr. Concessi, obviously I'm sorry that the appeal was not granted. Thank you very much for your presentation and attendance here tonight. The next item on tonight's agenda is appeal number 25005, which is Mr. William Taurence and Cindy Ashlie of 22623 West River Road in Grosse Ile, Michigan. They've applied for a variance from the standards of section 285-19.11C. Mr. Borden, could we have your presentation on the second appeal in tonight's agenda?
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Let me just get here. All right, case number 2. Property at 22623 West River Road. If you can follow my cursor, this guy right here. It is located on the east side of West River, north of Ferry Road. The property is zoned R1A, single-family residential. A little bit of background on this particular project. So as you can see in the aerial photos, the property contains a principal residence as well as 2 detached accessory buildings. The one where my cursor is essentially it's identified as a detached garage structure. And then the one further to the rear of the property is identified as a guest house. So those are non-conforming as noted in my review letter for a few different reasons. One being the garage structure does not provide the required side yard setback. Another being that there are 2 detached accessory buildings, and then the use of the guest house as a second dwelling is not permitted in single-family zoning. So there are a few non-conforming issues with that. That being said, this request has nothing to do with those structures other than the fact that there are already 2. So what the petitioner is requesting this evening is for a third detached accessory building. It would be in the southeast portion of the property. And as you'll note in their review material, or in their submittal materials as well as my review letter, that shed did previously exist, or a shed did previously exist in this location as well. And my impression from the submittal materials is that the proposal is not only a similar location, but it's also of similar size, etc. So they are essentially trying to put back what was once there. Unfortunately, at some point in time, I don't know the date. We did not have anything in the file as far as demolition, and there was nothing I saw in the submittal materials that identified a date that shed was removed from the property. We do have, again, similar ordinance standards we're dealing with, so 18.6 with respect to the non-conforming building, 1911 with respect to accessory buildings, and 23.5B, again, of course, which are your review standards. So this is an overview of the site plan. So if you can follow, so it's a relatively large property. I believe it was over 2 acres in total, pushing even upwards of like 2.5. So this is the existing principal residence I'm highlighting here. This is what's identified as the detached garage, and then this is what is, at least in some of the materials in the file, identified as the guest house. So petitioner is seeking to install a new shed down here in this southeasterly portion of the property. Again, I don't really have to circle it. It's already circled in red. I think you can see it. This is a view of both the floor plan and the proposed structure itself. So as you can see, I mean, it is it's referenced in multiple times, I guess, in the submittal materials as a shed. Subjectively, it is a very nice shed. So that is certainly what at least my take on what you see in the pictures here. And we can come back to this at any point if you need, Mr. Chair. So do also have a handful of photos. Thank you again, Mr. Schweikert. So upper left is a view of the guest house building, far northeast corner of the property. Middle is the garage, which is just west of the guest house, again, kind of the northeasterly portion of the property. And the upper right is the concrete pad that was put in, I believe it was last year. I'm looking at Ross, but I think it was last year, where the petitioner would like to install their shed. So that's in this location back here. Again, the southeasterly portion of the property. Couple more views. So again, upper left, this is the viewpoint of that concrete pad that was permitted by the township. This is where they would like to install the shed. And in the background, you can see the neighbor's shed in a similar location. Far right is a similar photo, a little bit different angle. And then again, a little bit better view of most of the rear yard, as well as that guest house and a portion of the garage in the center photo. So some of the ordinance requirements here, I've already referenced the numbers. In this case, section 1911 regulates the provisions for accessory buildings. It includes a number of provisions for issues such as size, height, spacing, setbacks, and the number of buildings that are allowed. The building that is proposed before you this evening does appear to comply with essentially all of those standards, save for the fact that it would be a third detached accessory building where the ordinance only permits one. As such, there is a single variance that is before you this evening, and that is a variance to permit the construction of a third detached accessory building where section 1911 permits only one. So that's the variance before you. I did have a closing point on here, and again, when I wrap up through my presentation, our question answer, I do invite the petitioner to come up because I do have a few questions that I want to give them the floor to have an opportunity to address. The first of which, as noted in my review letter, between the project write-up in the submittal and the plans that were provided, there's a discrepancy in the dimension of the proposed shed. So it's identified as a smaller dimension in the write-up, and it is identified as a larger shed in the plans that were presented to you. So I would like the petitioner to identify which the correct dimensions are for your consideration this evening. That way, if you were to consider favorable action, we know specifically which shed is being granted, I guess, to make sure there's compliance if you were to approve it. So again, I'm not going to go back through primary versus secondary. I've sort of explained that to everyone. Getting into practical difficulty, again, strict compliance with ordinance requirements will not prevent continued use of the property. Based on my review of the submittal materials, they really tend to focus their issues on both the financial implications as well as what I've deemed sort of outdated and incorrect information from a former building official. There is a lot of reliance on those two items. My opinion, those really don't equate to a practical difficulty. Again, there may be some unfortunate situations that have occurred here, but I don't believe that that is practical difficulty. That being said, I do invite the petitioner to come before you and explain why they feel that there is a practical difficulty and or why conformity would be unnecessarily burdensome in this particular case. So again, I don't wish to deny them the floor at any point, but I do think that's an important part of our conversation tonight. Similarly, substantial justice. So there aren't any great alternatives here. To me, an alternative would be that they could have a single, much larger detached accessory building potentially under the ordinance. The size of their property, they would qualify for not only the largest accessory building for a residence, they would also qualify for planning consideration of something even beyond the maximum number. That being said, there's already two out there. I know that this property was developed quite a long time ago. I'm not suggesting that it's a great idea to demolish potentially, exceedingly old structures that may have some historic value. They may not, but these are certainly options that might be there. There's a potential maybe that they could expand the residence to accommodate their storage needs as well. Those are just, again, a couple of ideas that I wanted to float as some potential options, but I do want the petitioner to explain to you tonight as part of their presentation why compliant alternatives would not be reasonable or feasible, and how granting of the variance would be fair to other property owners in the area, in that it would result in a third detached accessory building. And then closing out the primary considerations, there really isn't anything in the submittal materials that identify an exceptional circumstance or extraordinary condition of the property. So again, I invite the petitioner to please come up and explain to the board why they feel that there is and what that might be as part of your consideration tonight. Hitting the rest of the standards, again, when you take a look at the project, it's a reasonably sized shed in the rear yard of a very large property. It is very well wooded, mostly on the perimeters. I don't believe that granting the variance will result in issues of public safety, adverse impacts on land values or neighborhood character. I don't believe it will have any impact on the supply of light and air to the neighbor. There won't be traffic issues. I don't foresee any of the nuisance-like impacts noted in your ordinance, and I really don't believe there will be much overall impact to any of the adjacent properties. In fact, based on the plans, their shed would ultimately be smaller than what the neighbor has for a method of comparison. So just looking at that in terms of impacts on adjacent properties, I think their shed would have less impact on the neighbor potentially than the neighbor's shed had upon them. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Borden, any questions from the board members for Mr. Borden? Yes.
I don't want to jump out of turn again.
That's all right.
Can you go back to the picture, the top view of the other two structures? They have, or is it just in the packet here?
The Google Earth view?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you had on there too, no?
Yes.
Yep, yeah. It's hard to tell from this view, but the two structures in the back, is there, the reason why I'm asking is because I had to go through a similar situation where I joined the two structures I had in back to make one structure. I guess this is more to the appellant, but I'm going to run it by you as well since you're standing there. If they were to do something of that nature, it gives it one structure, one detached structure, then if they attached it to properly, correct? And it would give their, I guess it would handle their need for storage.
Potentially. Honestly, that is a question I think better suited for the petitioner. Whether that could be done, I would say it's possible. I don't know the method of attachment. I don't know how, from a code standpoint, they make it one building. I don't know the sizes of those buildings. It would still be, if you were to do so, it would be an expansion of a non-conforming building. As I mentioned, the detached garage does not meet the side yard setback. So there's more issues there. Would that be a potential option to a third detached building? It might be, but again, a lot of speculation with respect to that.
I understand. I just want to throw that out there as a potential.
I have one quick question. When I'm looking at the aerial view, it almost looks like there's a separate piece of property that the other two structures are on. Is this all one property, or is that an individual property that I'm looking at for the second house and shed?
This is all one property.
Okay, so it's just a triple lot?
There are multiple lots contained within a single parcel.
Okay.
The owners, and they can speak to this more directly, they do have 3 separate tax IDs. The parcel containing the principal building, the garage, and the guest house is one of them. The other 2 are the waterfront parcels. There are 2 separate waterfront parcels on the west side of West River. But as far as the buildings and really what we're dealing with tonight, this 2+ acre piece here is a single parcel.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Borden from the board? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Borden. Appreciate that. We'd like to invite the applicants up to the microphone. Please identify yourself and who you're here on behalf. And you don't need to give us an address. I believe it's in the applicant's paperwork, sir.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you for having me. My name's Tony Carmen. I'm a Grosse Ile resident. I live down on Hickory. I'm here on behalf of the Taurences, Bill and Cindy, to just kind of, I guess to first I'll answer a couple questions, most significantly the dimensions of the new proposed shed. As I included in my submittal, the dimensions are 16 by 12 by 10. what happened, they previously had an existing shed in the same location for many years. It was there for a long time, and just due to deterioration, weather, time, etc., just basically became of a condition where it was no longer practical to have, and it really wasn't restorable. I'll show you a picture of it. It's obviously right there, you know, and I mean, you can just tell that it's an older type model of just, you know, storage type shed. They had a number of issues with it structurally, a number of just, you know, mice and all that type of stuff, to the point where, and of course, you know, it's an old wooden shed. It's not going to last forever. There's going to be weather concerns, deterioration. So that old shed was removed completely about 2 years ago. I believe that was an outstanding concern. So about a year ago, there was the new shed pad that you saw laid. Obviously, a permit was issued by the township for that, and I believe it was laid in the presence of the building official. And obviously, the permit contemplated that a new shed was going to be put there. So we have the concrete pad for the shed, the new one, in the exact same spot as the old one. So as far as the practical difficulty prong, you know, previously in the old shed here, the Taurences, they have a 2.5 acre parcel. And for clarity, as Mr. Borden brought up, there's 3 separate addresses, 3 separate tax IDs. So this is a very unique piece of property. And it has a number of historical significances, but I'll kind of get to that. But so the old shed you know, held all their lawn tools, maintenance tools, you know, just a number of different things that they would decorate with outside and all that. You know, it was such a large lawn, such a large parcel. You know, it needs a fair amount of maintenance and upkeep. So, you know, to comply with ordinances, of course. So, my clients, you know, stored everything in there, and then they had to get rid of the older shed. And so basically they had to move all the lawn care equipment, tools, etc., all of that into one of the other buildings, which is the garage, but also has horse stables. And again, that goes back to the historical significance, which I'll kind of touch on later. But also they had to move a lot of the things to the attic of their garage, and they're hard to access up there, because the Taurences are a little bit older, in their 70s, harder to get up and down those steps. And further, also they kept like the lawn furniture and everything just in that ground floor shed. Also, kind of practical difficulty wise, they have already had the new shed built. And it was previously delivered to the home, and then they were informed by the township that no, you can't keep it here, even just on a temporary storage basis. So now it is off-site, being stored somewhere at another location at their own expense and monthly expense. They are also paying for a completely separate storage unit off of their property, paying about $400 a month for that to store their lawn maintenance equipment, tools, etc., that used to be in the old shed. So as far as practical difficulty, you know, there's a number of kind of different things my clients are working with. You know, mostly, you know, kind of just, you know, the financial commitment at this point. And then to kind of the second prong, substantial justice, if I can. And it was already shown by Mr. Borden in a couple of the pictures. Their next door neighbor, the previous picture, directly had a much larger shed right on the other side of the property line. Here's an older one that is, if everybody can see it, that is on their area of West River, closer to them.
All right, what was that last photo?
I'm sorry.
I apologize. I should have caught you before you flipped it up.
Okay, sorry, I'll leave it up for a
I was
second.
making a note and then I just looked up and saw you.
Okay,
What was
sorry.
that for? I missed it.
We're looking at just at this old shed.
Oh, I thought you were looking at that pad for some reason.
Nope.
All right, never mind. Disregard.
Yep.
And where is
That's the
that?
neighbors.
And where's that? That's the neighbors where?
A couple doors down on West River, I think to the north.
Okay.
Notice, the brick attachment to it. Can I move on to the next one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. And also, this was the previous shed pad. I'm sorry, this is the previous shed pad. Go to another one. Another view of the neighboring shed. And then another shed farther down West River. And I believe this one is to the south. I believe 2 doors to the south on West River towards Ferry. So, of course, so there's a number of other neighbors that have the same thing going. Of course, their properties are different circumstances. But also, as Mr. Borden said, the shed is in a location on the property where it's not visible. It's not blocking anyone's view of the water, not even close. And is basically in a spot that's tucked away that's not going to be, obstruct any views, anything like that. So really kind of the substantial justice prong also touches on my clients, again, they went through the proper permit process for this new shed. They had the concrete pad laid last year. They got the permit, and it was stated on the permit there was going to be a shed located there. And, I've always asked myself, well, why would this permit for the pad be issued in the first place if a shed weren't going to be there and if that weren't anticipated by the township for a shed to be there? Having a shed pad and no shed is useless and doesn't make any sense. So again, that was another financial, commitment by my clients, as is the fact that, they had this new one built in reliance upon the issuance of the permit by the township. And so there was the cost for that as well as the current storage fees. But everyone, what's really kind of, I guess, unique and just kind of special to Grosse Ile about this matter tonight is just the fact that my clients, they have a very unique piece of property. It's a historical site. It's over 2.5 acres. These two detached buildings go back a very long time. It's a historical site that goes back to all the way back to World War II, where originally, as one of the buildings as it existed back then, it was housing for soldiers. And then that evolved to being housing for teachers. As I noted on my application, this property has the nickname of the Fox Schoolhouse, as a historical residence. So the history of these structures, would really make it just an extreme difficulty and an extraordinary circumstance to have them to be, torn down, of course, but otherwise altered to be able to, the question was asked, well, could a storage shed be combined with, the garage? And the answer is no. Just given the unique historical, value that these structures represent. And they're not just storage structures, as I said, they each have their own address. They each have, one is, or was previously, could be a guest house that's fully livable, has running water, etc. So, it goes much beyond just storage structures. Like the shed is not just the new proposed shed will not just be serving a purpose that's already being served. It's completely separate purpose. So I think the extraordinary circumstances really just tie into that historical aspect of, I guess the proposed now third outbuilding. And certainly the Torrances have put a lot of time and effort and certainly money into preserving these historical structures. So to me, being an island resident, it's kind of part of what makes Grosse Ile unique and historical. And I think it's definitely an extraordinary circumstance. So that's really all I have for now.
Thanks, sir. Do any members on the board have any questions for the
Yes, sir.
presentation? Yes, Mr. Schweiker.
I want to elaborate on some of this. I had the opportunity to spend some time with the applicant as I walked the site and took the pictures that Brian saw. And several things struck me. Okay, first, the historical nature of this cannot be underestimated. This was a schoolhouse back in 1900. Okay, and it was turned into a house, and with that, became an estate, because the what's called the garage right now was a horse stable, and next to it was where the horse caretaker or whatever lived. So that is there. Okay, and the building in the back, the guest house, as you pointed out, took care of soldiers. Now, that's an accessory building, which having, as Kyle would know, having just got done with the master plan work, what was one of the things that our community thought we needed? Accessory structures that had residential opportunity for small units. Okay, that's exactly what that is. And I have a great difficulty in looking at those three buildings. Okay, two of which are accessory buildings, and counting them against today's standards against a shed. That doesn't make sense to me. Further, the comment was made about the fact that the applicant received guidance from a prior enforcement officer about the fact that shed could be originally constructed, the old one. Okay, and I believe it is relevant. Because I know how zoning ordinances were enforced back in those days, and it was a totally different world than it is today. All right, a typical applicant has no clue about what's in the big thick binder of ordinance standards that he has to meet. Well, who does he depend on? He depends on the person of the township that walks around and tells him this is what you have to do. And that, I believe, is what they were told. Now, yes, it's secondhand, but I believe them because I know the way this township worked. So there, they have an understanding of what they were capable of doing. They then proceed to move through the process as they should, getting a permit for the cement, which references the building. Probably, my guess is that was issued without a field survey. I bet it was office issued, okay? Which means that somebody going out there and making a zoning determination at that point was not done. Now, I have one other issue with this. I find it objectionable the way the applicants were treated when this whole thing came up. They had that building on a trailer there on site with a crane, ready to put it in place, and were stopped. And forced them to take that building off site, when very easily they could have done exactly what was done for the previous applicant. It was put in place and a sticker was put on it that said, this is not suitable. This does not meet township standards. Because the applicant would have surely come on in and wanted to come to ZBA to get an approval. Okay, and all they had to do was say that and give the applicant an opportunity to finish what they started. And then come to get approval. And then if this commission says no, no problem, it gets taken out. But to stop them up front and cause all the grief that they had to go through is not right, in my opinion. But getting back to the main issue, I think that there's every reason why this ZBA should approve this appeal, for the reasons I've stated.
Thank you, Mr. Schweiker.
Any other questions or statements from the board members to the applicant?
If anything? No. So you were talking about the they approved the permit. That permit was specifically for the cement pad, correct?
Correct, correct.
Okay, so it
but-
didn't encompass a shed. It was
Correct.
cement pad approval.
Correct, but it's my understanding that, you know, in the submittal, they obviously stated what the purpose of the pad was for.
Okay.
The pad was not
but the
just to lay
permit-
there with nothing on it. A new shed was going to be constructed on it. The permit for the pad thus issued, and of course, you know, my clients relied upon that.
I understand that. I mean, I understand. But I just want to clarify, the permit they submitted for and what was approved was specifically for the cement pad. There was no shed included with that permit, yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And thanks for your information, Mr. Schweiker. I didn't know some of that took place. You cleared up my question about historical. I thought you were trying to claim that this old shed was some historical. And I was like, there's no way. But anyways, I'm clear on that now, so I'm all set at this point.
Thank you.
Mr. Mills. Any questions, Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, I do have a question. Your submittal says it was unambiguously stipulated on the permit that there was going to be a shed located there. Do you have something, a document that states that or anything? Or was this just going back to saying Richard Segley 20 years ago said that we could do that? I mean, you said it was stipulated. I'm just crossing the T's and dotting the I's.
Right,
here.
I understand. I think I don't know if stipulated was maybe the correct verbiage I should have used, but I guess understood.
Okay.
I think that's probably the verbiage that should have been used. Understood. Within the scope of the permit, on the permit for the scope of the entire project.
And just two other questions, general in nature. The guest house, is that currently occupied?
No.
It's not occupied?
No.
And so the garage and the garage space is strictly used by the Taurences?
Yes. For the time being, yes.
Right. Okay, so there's not, I'm just curious, there's not space there to store what was in that?
Correct. Exactly. Because like and as Mr. Schweiker touched on, you know, there used to be horses stables. So, you know, it's not your typical garage as you might picture that's got lawn care equipment and maintenance stuff in it and all that. So yes, correct.
So it's being kept for future use as horse stables or?
Potentially. But right. Exactly.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions, Kyle?
I was just back to the original permit. When I look at the concrete that was put in, you see something towards the back that would lead me to believe that this was going to be for a shed. So when we saw that, I'm just curious if there was any red flags that went up with the inspector when they went to look at it, because it just seems like it would be difficult if you were going to go pull the permit and go over there. I would assume that it would be okay as well. If I pulled the permit with the city with the intent of having a pad for a shed, I would have hoped that they would have cut me off at that point and said, hey, just so you know, you can pour the cement, but you can't put a shed here.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board members? Anything else on behalf of the applicants to present to the board?
No, sir. We're set.
Thank you very much. I can have a motion to open public comment for appeal number
So moved.
25005. It's been moved. A second.
Support public hearing?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there any public comment from anybody that is here on appeal number 25-005?
Sorry, I did have one more thing. I submitted this earlier, but yesterday, September 22nd, Charlie and Linda Campo, who reside at 22651, the applicant's next door neighbors, did write a letter in support of the new shed. I did submit that today, Mr. Borden. I don't know if you received that. I did email it over this morning, and I do have a copy of that I can present if the board would like to see it.
If where there's no confirmation that it was received and is part of the township file, do you have the letter today?
I do. I have it. I can. I got it. I just got a copy of it on my phone.
All right, well, we'll take it at your word that you did submit it as an attorney for the appellant. You did submit it to the township, and therefore it should be part of the township record.
Yes, I sent it
Okay.
to, I sent it to Jimmy.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Thank you.
All right, any other public comment on appeal number? Okay, can you please come up to the podium? We know who you are because you're an appellant tonight, but we ask for the record that you identify
Yes.
yourself and give your address, please.
My name is Margaret Lutsic, and I'm a neighbor a few doors down. And I remember that shed, and it was pretty, needed to come down. And the gentleman next door passed away. The compost built a beautiful structures. And I just assumed you were going to put another one up there eventually. Never even thought anything of it. I'd go back there more when my dog was alive, sorry. But anyway, I just think it's very appropriate. The whole complex is beautiful. They play beautiful music from the home. No, I thought your house did that as well. There's a bell. But anyway, it's a beautiful house, and it was there, it's been there forever, but it was deteriorating. So
Okay.
I don't see a problem as a neighbor, so.
All right, thank you, Dr. Lustig. Any other public comment on appeal number 25-005? Hearing none, can I have a motion to close the public comment section?
So moved.
Second?
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion's carried to close the public comment section. Any discussion amongst the board about appeal number 25005, or any additional questions for each other? Hearing none, does anybody propose a motion regarding appeal number 25-005?
No. I'm going to make a motion to deny it. I don't believe it meets the criteria that it needs to meet. I don't believe, unless I'm going to be corrected here, I don't believe it makes the practical difficulties, my apologies, the substantial justice or the extraordinary circumstance. It's unfortunate. I understand what happened, and I'm not going to compare those with other cases we've had, but I don't believe it meets the standards we need to meet to move forward with it, so that's going to be mine.
Is there any second on Mr. Mills' motion to deny? Anybody? Hearing no second of the motion, it's not going to be entertained. Does anybody else propose a motion regarding appeal number 25-005?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve appeal number 25005 as it meets the three criteria listed in Brian Borden's presentation.
And those three criteria, Mr. Schweikart, are practical difficulties, substantial justice, and extraordinary circumstances for the
Correct.
record? All right, thank you. Anybody second Mr. Schweikart's motion? Ms. Davies, second. Anybody have any comments or additions to that motion? All those in favor? We'll do a roll call here so we have a correct number. Let's do it that way. Mr. Schweikart?
Aye.
Ms. Davies?
Nay.
Mr. Mills is a nay. I'm a nay. Mr. Kennedy?
Nay.
Mr. Kyle DeBasset?
Aye.
And Mr. Hopper?
Aye.
Somebody keeping tally there for us? 4-3. Okay, we have another 4 versus 3, so that it passes by 1 vote. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'm required under law to recuse myself from the next item.
Okay.
So I'm going to step aside.
All right, thank you, Mr. Schweikart. That's regarding appeal number 25002, Dr. Margaret Lustick, correct?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I am required to recuse from this next matter.
Thank you, Ms. Davies. That's on appeal number 25-002, Dr. Margaret Lustick as well. The third item, or third appeal on our agenda tonight is appeal numbers 25-002, which is Dr. Margaret Lustick of 22799 West River Road, is requesting appeal of the Planning Commission's decision on a site plan for approval of a golf cart barn at the West Shore Golf and Country Club located at 22843 West River Road. West River Road. Mr. Borden, when Ms. Davies exits the room, could we have you come give your presentation?
I don't really have one, Mr. Chair.
Okay, there's not a presentation on, but
I'll put my slide up.
okay.
I did, Mr. Chair, prepare a single slide. I will let the petitioner present their own case, but I did put this together for board's consideration because appeals are a little bit unusual in the types of cases that you hear. So the first point up top is just a reminder that appeals are essentially treated the same way as a dimensional variance procedurally, in that it takes a majority of the membership to grant the appeal. In other words, to overturn or reject the Planning Commission's decision in this particular instance. So we are now at 5. So just that as a reminder. So a 3-2 vote is a majority of those here. A 3-2 vote does not grant the appeal. A 3-2 vote would essentially uphold the appeal. It takes 4 to grant it. And then I've just screenshotted section 23.5A. So these are this is essentially the verbiage intro into appeals, and then items 1 through 5 being the review standards that you have to apply tonight in your consideration.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Borden, for clarifying that for us. And Dr. Lutsic, since there is no other presentation on behalf of the township, we would ask that you come up and identify yourself, please, as you already have done so in the previous appeal, but this is your appeal, Doc.
All right, I'm Dr. Margaret Lutsic. I live at 22799 West River Road. Mr. Chair, members of the board, tonight you face what may be the most consequential decision of your service to this township. The matter has already consumed 30 minutes in closed session on June 24th, and another full hour in closed session again today. That alone underscores its gravity. And yet, after all the time and attention, the question before you remains both fundamental and decisive: standing.
Okay, that's where I was going to, let me interrupt you for a moment, please, Ms. Dr. Lutsic. So you're under the, just to be clear.
Yes.
The zoning board is not determining anything tonight that has to do with the decision to amend the special land use permit, and we don't have the authority to do that. Our sole issue tonight is considering your appeal.
I'm going to get to that.
Okay, but here's where I'm going first. Hear me out. Of the Planning Commission's approval of the West Shore Golf and Country Club site plan. That's the sole issue in front of us. You understand that, correct? And as you recall from our last meeting, in order to get to that issue, we first had to address the issue of your standing, which we asked you to, whether you would adjourn, and you agreed. And so we have the 3 issues of standing that are establishing your precipitation in the underlying proceeding. This is the first standard. The second one is your assertion of a legally protected right or interest. And the third standard is the evidence of a particularized special damages. And you've addressed those in your packet, and not to be rude, but it's pretty voluminous. It's pretty thick. You've addressed those 3 factors to establish that you have standing, correct?
Yes.
Can you, since they are all in that packet that you've submitted, that is part of the public record, that is part of the, we have all had that, we're given that, we've all read that. Can you give us an overview of the 3 factors, because everything else has already been part of the record and it is there. Can you do that for us?
I was getting to that.
Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead.
If you give me the time, I will do that. The Michigan Supreme Court has already defined what that means. In Saugatuck Dunes, the court has made clear that standing is a jurisdictional threshold, not a shield. It is not a device to close the door on neighbors. It's not a way to protect a defective approval from review. All 3 requirements of standing are met here. Participation is undisputed. Legally protected interests are directly at stake. Property rights, pecuniary interests, and personal rights tied to the use and enjoyment of my home. And the harms are not abstract, they are concrete and particularized. Stormwater flooding redirected into my yard by changes of topography, diminished property value documented in property assessor report, noise and lighting intrusions concentrated at my boundary as shown in the architectural drawings, loss of setback screening, and procedural protections the code guarantees every single resident. These are not generalized concerns. They fall directly and disproportionately on my home. This is standing exactly as the court defined it. And let me be clear, you can always disagree with me on the merits. That is your role, and I respect it. But shutting down my voice at the threshold by denying standing is something very different. Denial does not say I am wrong. It says I cannot even be heard. And when residents are silenced before they can be heard, what erodes is public trust in the entire process. That brings me to a broader issue, trust. Recently, residents have watched rules bend for some and enforced strictly for others. A tee box elevated illegally, a building demolished unlawfully, drainage problems ignored, screening requirements abandoned. Over and over, enforcement has looked optional for West Shore's Board of Directors. And the questions my patients and friends have asked me is always the same. Why are they granting exceptions while everyone else must follow the code? This is not a zoning problem. This is a fairness problem. The fairness is a civic promise our local laws were meant to keep. Now let's keep it clear about the choice before you. Apply the law faithfully and you will be granted standing. Deny standing and the matter does not end. It escalates. It moves to Detroit. It can move to the 3rd Judicial Circuit. It draws attention to Lansing, not only from licensing and regulatory affairs for systemic non-enforcement, but also from environmental, Great Lakes, and energy, which has jurisdiction over drainage and stormwater. The second path is longer, costlier, invites more scrutiny than simply applying the Saugatuck Dunes here tonight. From the beginning, my counsels urged me to take this matter directly to Lansing. I have not. I chose restraint because I live here, because I value this township, because I believe disputes should be resolved locally by neighbors under local laws written for exactly that purpose. But if standing is misapplied to shield a defective approval, escalation is a legal reality. The law points clearly to granting standing. Doing so avoids unnecessary exposure. It keeps the matter local under this board's control and ensures that the merits are decided by objective legal standards. Height-based setbacks, drainage directions, parking requirements, and the special land use review threshold. Those are all measurable, they are defensible, and they protect both the township and the residents. The choice is clear. One path risks taxpayer expense, state oversight, and public mistrust. The other is safer, fairer, and more neighborly. The legal path is sound. The path that protects this board, this township, and the community you serve is to uphold the law, recognize the standing, and allow the merits to be heard. Thank you.
So, Doctor, if I could summarize, that along with your papers that you've submitted is your presentation on the first issue of tonight is whether you have standing and you've met the 3 elements of standing. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have anything else to add to the standing element or issue for tonight's appeal?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions from the board on to Dr. Lutsic for her presentation or the issues she presents in her paperwork on the issue of standing? Do you have any?
For me, no.
I do not have any questions myself. Mr. Kennedy, do you have any questions on her standing? Mr. DeBossette, do you have any? And I'm sorry, Mr. Robert Hopper, do you have any questions of Dr. Lutsic on her presentation of standing?
No.
Okay. I believe do we open the standing presentation to public comment, Council?
No,
Okay.
that doesn't require hearing.
Thank you very, very much. That being said, based on the paperwork presented by Dr. Lutsic, as well as her oral presentation here this evening, is there a motion concerning whether or not the factors for standing before we address the appeal have been met? Does anybody have a motion for that?
Well, I guess maybe I'd like to make a motion. The standing is questionable. If maybe we could deny the standing, but allow to hear.
All right.
Yes.
All right, so let's, if I could, are you presenting a motion first on the issue of standing?
Yes.
And that motion you would have to give me that motion or present that motion on the issue of standing on whether or not the 3 elements for standing or factors have been met first.
Well, no, I guess a hard yes or no, I guess I'd have to say no, but I think it's a little bit convoluted. Not on her behalf. I don't believe she's met the standing standard. Maybe I'm not saying this properly. But I do want to hear what she has to say regarding the appeal. Does that make sense? I guess, I know I'm not wording this properly.
Well, I could offer you assistance, but it's your floor and your motion. Have you made the motion to deny Dr. Lustig's meeting the threshold factors for standing?
No, I'm going to withdraw that until I hear what you, until I hear what you
Well,
have to say.
I'm not going to counsel you on the record.
I'm not
or
asking you to
instruct
counsel me. I'm going to withdraw.
All right. Does anybody else have a motion regarding the three factors for establishing standing by Dr. Lustig first? Hearing none, I will make a motion that the issue of standing, that based on the documents presented in the paperwork from Dr. Lustig and her oral presentation tonight, that she has not met the three factors for standing. Therefore, I would deny that issue. However, I would asterisk that with that we ask Dr. Lustig to proceed with her appeal, even though we would be denying the factors of standing. That's my motion. Any second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? We're going to take a roll call. Mr. Mills?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Mr. Kennedy?
Aye.
Mr. DeBossette?
Aye.
Mr. Hopper?
Aye.
That being said, the motion carries. Dr. Lustig, we would ask that you please address the board on the issue of your appeal, even though we have determined that you don't meet the standing requirements, and that we focus on the appeal on whether you have your issues on the planning commission's approval of the site plan. Would you be address that for us tonight, Dr. Lustig?
On the record of council, I would refer the board back to the administrative record.
Okay, and that being the record that you presented, the documents you've presented in your oral presentation?
Yes, and the pages that I've given you.
I'm sorry,
And the
Doc.
pages I've given you to review.
Okay, and that's what I'm talking about, your documents, your
Yes.
packages that you
Yes.
gave us initially and that you gave us for tonight's meeting, correct? And that's your presentation
Yes.
or the issues that you want the board to address on whether the Planning Commission's approval of the West Shore Golf and Country Club site plan is proper, correct?
I'd like you to refer back to what I've said on record.
Okay. And
have any more comment.
essentially, that's your presentation
That's
on
yes.
the appeal of the Planning Commission's site plan, correct? Correct?
Yes, I'm not,
Okay, I just
want
want
you to refer back to it. I've been told by council not to say anything more about it. I've presented you the documents, and I've said what I've said.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I appreciate that. Any comments from the board regarding the documents presented and Dr. Short presentation on relying on those? And
No, none from me.
none from me. Mr. Kennedy? Mr. DeBossette?
No.
Mr. Hopper?
No.
We have to open public comment on this issue. Do I have a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Hang on a second, I gotta put it all in there. On Dr. Lustig's appeal number 25002, which is the appeal of the Planning Commission's decision of a site plan approving the golf cart barn at the West Shore Country Club. Anybody give us a motion to open public comment on that?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries to open public comment. I would now entertain any public comment from anybody regarding appeal number 25002, which is the Planning Commission's decision on a site plan for approval of the golf barn at West Shore. Is there any public comment? Sir, Mr. Taurence, I believe it is? you raised your hand, please identify yourself for the record if you could, and give us your address for procedural and record purposes.
Yeah, my name is William Taurence at 22623 West River Road. I'm a neighbor. I guess I'm just kind of confused. I don't understand how somebody who is directly affected by this proposal is told that they don't have standing in what's going on. I mean, it seems absolutely absurd to me. I don't understand how she could not have standing when she's directly affected by all this. That's what my question is.
Well, this is a comment section. I don't believe it's a question.
Well, I just want to make my opinion known about this. I have a problem with her being told she doesn't have standing when all of this is directly affecting her property and her life and her family and her whole situation here on the island. I mean, how does a citizen told that they have no say, can't say anything, and told that, they just don't have anything to say about it? They don't have any recourse about it. I don't understand it. I just want to make that comment.
All right, anything further?
No, that's it. I'm just a little taken back by that.
Okay, sir, thank you. Any other public comment on appeal number 25005? Hearing none and seeing no others in the audience raising their hand, can I have a motion to close the public comment on appeal number 25005?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Correct. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion to close the public comment section is approved. Members of the board, does anybody have any questions or issues on appeal number 25002, which is Dr. Lustig's requesting the appeal of the Planning Commission's decision on the site plan approval for the golf barn at the West Shore Country Club? Mr. Mills, I'll start with you.
I have none.
I have none. Mr. Kennedy?
Not at this time, no.
Mr. DeBossette?
None.
And Mr. Hopper?
No.
There being no comment or questions, does anyone have a proposed motion on appeal number 25-002 on the Planning Commission's decision on a site plan approval for the golf cart barn at the West Shore Country Club? Hearing none, I make a motion that the appeal 25002 be denied, which is the appeal from the Planning Commission's decision on a site plan approval for the golf barn at the West Shore Country Club, because the decision was not arbitrary or capricious. They didn't fail to ensure consistency with the ordinance standards. They didn't make an error by relying on inaccurate information. It wasn't abuse of discretion, and it wasn't based on any erroneous interpretation of the zoning law. That's my motion to deny the appeal.
Support.
Any second of the motion? First before support?
Oh, second.
Mr. DeBossette, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll take a roll call if we could. Mr. Mills?
Aye.
I myself and am aye on my motion. Mr. Kennedy?
Aye.
Mr. DeBossette?
Aye.
And Mr. Hopper?
Aye.
That being said, the motion to deny the appeal carries. The next issue on our agenda this evening is any other public comment on any other matters. And being that there is no public in the room any longer, I take the indication that there is no public comment. And the last item is a motion to adjourn. Can I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Tonight's meeting is hereby closed. So thank you very much, gentlemen, and former lady and gentlemen. Thank you.